three specific times of connected with the Paschal offering. So of course the rabbis are debating what those three times means, and one of them is of course talking about the slaughtering. The other time is talking about when you can begin eating it, and then the question is, what is the final time? Is it talking about the last time you could eat it, or is it talking about when you have to burn it? So based on that, you have the same argument. Do you have until midnight to eat it, or do you have until the morning to eat it? So these are the way that is the way the Gemara covers this discussion. Then the next Gemara talked about a interesting dialogue between Hashem and Moshe Rabbeinu. That Hashem told Moshe, and he begged him, please, I beg of you, please beg the Jewish people to get the gold and the silver from the Egyptian, to borrow it from the Egyptians. And the reason was that Abraham shouldn't complain. And with this, we turned the page to page 9b, and we said that Abraham shouldn't complain, and said, listen, you fulfilled the servitude part of it. You didn't fulfill the great wealth part of it. They're supposed to leave with great wealth. So then the Gemara brought a parable where a person wants to leave prison, doesn't really care about the wealth. And the way, the connection, why is the Gemara mentioning that? So it seems maybe the Gemara is answering that why was Hashem concerned about Avraham complaining? Why wasn't Hashem concerned about his commitment to give them great wealth? And it could be that the Gemara is answering that question by saying that the people were mevater. They were forgiving on the leaving with great wealth. They just wanted to leave. They said, we don't need to deal with these extra headaches of borrowing, and we're not getting involved. We're happy to leave, and we're happy to leave empty-handed. But Hashem said, no, I don't want Avraham to have any complaints. I want that you should leave with great wealth, as I said, and therefore they had to beg Moshe. Hashem begged Moshe to beg the Jewish people to borrow and take the wealth with them. Now comes the next Gemara. We're on page Tes Amud Beis, and we're at the two dots, and the Gemara starts with the word Vayashilum. Now Vayashilum, and they lent them. Vayashilum, and they lent them. And it says they lent them these the gold, the silver, and so on. Klei chesef uchlei zahav usmolos, vessels of gold, vessels of silver, and garments. That's what they lent them. It seemed like a loan, but of course they were giving it to them. So Amar Reb Ami says, Melamed, this teaches us shehish ilum bal korchom. They lent them against their will. Where does Rabbi Ami see that from the word Vayash Ilum? So it seems that maybe from the extra mem at the end, that it implies that they needed to lend them. Somehow from the word Vayash Ilum, it implies that it was against their will. They weren't doing it, initiating it themselves. It was the Jewish people had to sort of like convince them to do it. Either on the side of the Egyptians, it was against the will of the Egyptians, or as the Gemara will say, another way of looking at it was against the will of the Jews. That there are two ways of looking at it, really, because the Jews also they weren't interested, and we'll soon see why. Why were the Jews not interested in it? Besides the fact that they didn't care about it, because they were happy to leave, but it seems like it was really against their will. So the Gemara is going to give a reason why it was not their interest to do it. So there's two ways of looking at it. Why it was against, whose will it was against. Yes, Ben.
Rabbi, from the word ashil, I think I'm deducting that they didn't want to give it. The Jews asked to borrow instead of just giving it to them. Otherwise, they would just give it without asking to borrow it.
Right. So the way you would like to learn this Gemara is that because it says the word Vayashilum, it teaches us that they didn't give it, but the Jews had to
They
borrow.
didn't give it willingly.
They had to borrow
lended
it.
to them. They just lended.
Yeah. The only thing is it doesn't really fit so well in the words. It sounds from the words that Hishilum Bal Karcham, that even the borrowing was not, it wasn't, they had to be Mishachneya.
They felt
to,
like they're not going to get it back.
they had to sort of, really, kvetch them to make them feel guilty
Right, because they knew that they are leaving, that the Jews are leaving one way or another. They want to leave. Now Egypt wants them to leave. So why lend them stuff,
Right. But anyway, so it sounds, so it sounds like it was, even the lending was not really
Right.
a regular loan. This was, they had to fetch them. And, we all know there's a famous medrash that says that, and Rashi brings it down, that the Jewish people during the Makat Choshech, when there was the plague of darkness, the Jews had checked out what's going on in the Egyptian households. They checked out, they walked around and saw, they have a big, they have gold bars over here, and they've got silver candelabra there, and they've got this, and they've got that. So they checked around people's houses, and when they came to borrow the stuff the next day or the next few days, what did they do? They went to their house and said, we would like to borrow a gold bar. And they said, gold bar? We don't have any gold bars. They said, you have it right there. I see it. It's right there. Or it's in that second drawer right there. Open the drawer. Let's see. And they would open the drawer. It was right there. They said, come on, give it, let me borrow it. And that's the way that's called borrowing against their will. In other words, the Egyptians were claiming we don't have it. Clearly, they didn't want to lend it, and the Jews had to manipulate their, and use their seichel to get them to lend it. So that's if you follow the logic, the Gemara's understanding that it was against the will of the Egyptians. But
Rabbi Smith.
Point.
Rabbi Smith.
Just 1 second, David. Mel was holding his hand up. Hold on 1 second. Mel?
No, I wanted to point out, in my opinion, they saw all of what Hashem brought upon them. So it was like they were like betwixt and between. Here they knew that Hashem could bring havoc to Egypt at any moment. And, in one way, the Yetzer Hara was saying, don't lend them anything because they ain't coming back. So it's it's a tough one, but they knew they're not coming back. They were so under stress, but the Yetzer Hara kept telling them, yeah, give it to them. And on the other end, probably they were saying, jeepers, these people are going to let us have another 10 makos. There's a lot to be said here.
Right. Okay, good point, Mel. Very good point. David, what did you want to say?
Yeah, that Hashem wanted that there should be a tremendous Kiddush Hashem, so that when the Jews said, well, we know the gold bar is behind your wall over here, and the Egyptians would answer, well, if you know where this stuff was, if you were here before and you knew where our stuff was and you didn't steal it, that's amazing. Like, how come you didn't steal it? We would have stole it. How come? How did you have the control not to steal our stuff when you could have stole our stuff when it was dark and you were in our house? So it was a tremendous Kiddush Hashem that they respected the Jews for not stealing their stuff when they could have, and then they gave it to them. Whether the giving was against their will or not, but it accomplished a tremendous Kiddush Hashem.
Is this clearly written out, or is this your thought?
I'm pretty sure I've seen this in the years past in the Meforshim, in the commentaries on Chumash. I'm almost sure that that's like,
Very nice.
one the major commentaries, that they wanted it to be a Kiddush Hashem through the Jews not stealing their stuff when they could have. And they said, oh, you were here and you saw stuff and you didn't take it. That's amazing. Like anybody else would have taken it. Right. There's something special about this nation that not only one person, but everybody, nobody stole their stuff, the Egyptians.
Very nice. Miranda, did you ever see this? Is that what you?
There's something else that I learned that I wanted to add to it, which from Mishnah, that when during the plague of darkness, that some of the Jews found family heirlooms in the Egyptian homes too. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Things that were handed down. They were told, we have this teapot or this something, and they found it in other Egyptian homes. They didn't take it yet, but I don't know if that's something that's common or not. That's what we were told by our Rebbitzin also.
So do you mean they found heirlooms, Jewish heirlooms that the Goyim had stolen from them at an earlier point?
At an earlier point, like maybe 100 years prior or something like that.
During slavery, probably. I guess
Exactly.
during connected with the slavery.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'd have to. Okay, that's very interesting.
You could check it out. I don't know where it's from, but yeah.
Okay, Edith.
Yes. To me, though, I sometimes question whether borrowing with the intention of not returning it, I mean, wouldn't that be like stealing too? So, I mean, was this a good thing that we did?
Yeah, well, the Talmud talks about a court case that took place in the time of Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
And one of the Goyim said that you owe Egypt a lot of money, told the Jewish people. So they brought the case to Alexander the Great. And I think the person who fought the case, I think his name was Gaviha Bar Sholem, but I have to look up the Gemara. Anyway, he said, yeah, it sounds like a very good, the Jewish defendant got up and he said, sounds like you got a really good claim, that we stole all your stuff. We never returned it. We borrowed it. We never returned it. He says, but just calculate how much we should give you, because we worked for you for 210 years and we had 600,000 people working for you, and it was numerous hours. It wasn't a 8-hour day job. We were working for you from well before dawn and well after dusk. And so just calculate how much, we should be giving you back, because you also owe us for all the work we did. We never got paid for. So they started making calculations, and the prosecutors had to run away, because they knew that instead of us giving them money, they were going to have to give us money if Alexander the Great would calculate it. So they decided to drop the case and run away. So that's the that's the story of the borrowing. I mean, that just touches upon the borrowing and the what was it really borrowing, or was it or giving, or
taking,
so on.
Taking our payment. Yeah.
So that's that's that. So in any event, so we've got this Gemara here that tells us that they borrowed it against someone's will. So now we're going to continue, and we're going to continue with the next words in the Gemara, about 8 lines down from the top, maybe 9 lines down from the top. Ika de Amri. There are those that say be'al korcham de Mitzrayim, against the wishes of the Egyptians. That means the Egyptians did not want to lend us. The Ika de Amri, there are those that say be'al korcham de Yisrael, against the wishes of the Jewish people, that we really didn't want to borrow this stuff. Man de Amar be'al korcham de Mitzrayim, according to the opinion that it was against the will of the Egyptians. The reason we call it against the wills of the Egyptians, was because it says unavas bias to chalek sholol. It uses the term sholol. This is a chapter of Tehillim, chapter 68, which does mention the Exodus from Egypt. And it uses the term sholol. Sholol means booty, and booty of war, prey of war. So it says that they divided the booty, which basically means against the wishes of its owners. It was divided. They called it booty, sholol. So the reason why it's called sholol shows that it was against the wishes of the owners, meaning the Egyptians. Man de Amar Bal Karcham de Yisrael, according to the opinion that it was against the wishes of the Yidden. Why was it against their wishes? They didn't want to have the gold and silver? And the answer the Gemara gives is Mishum Masui. It was a burden for the Jewish people to carry it. It was going to slow them down. And it was because it was going to slow them down, they initially did not want to do this. And but they ultimately, of course, did it as Hashem commanded Moshe that they should. Now, I'm just remembering, and I wanted to say this. Edith asked a question about the borrowing of, and what, did we really borrow it? I believe that when the Jewish people did borrow it, and they finally got it out of the hands of the Egyptians said, you know what? Take it and just leave. And so even though initially when we borrowed it possibly considering the returning it, but the real truth is that they said, we just want you out of here. That the Egyptians were so they were suffering so that they really just they really were agreeable to really give it to us. And that's what they told us when we took it. Initially, we wanted to borrow it. Maybe they didn't want to lend it. But then they realized that, you know what, we got to get these Jews out of here. Let's just lend it. Let's just give it to them. Just take it and goodbye. We don't want you back. We don't want you to return it because we don't want to see your face again. And so that's, because we don't want the plagues. So that, I think, is the real answer to your question, Edith. The fact that there was a court case with Alexander the Great, that's just in the eyes of the Goyim. That was just a certain scenario that they brought a case to court. They had to pretend, they had to play it well. But in truth, they actually lent us and they gave it to us physically. And possibly, now that you mention that, maybe that's the connection between the previous Gemara and this Gemara. The previous Gemara mentioned that the Jewish people were willing to forego on the wealth because we just wanted to leave. And maybe what the Gemara is saying is ultimately the Egyptians, they were willing to forego on us returning it just to get us out. So they really just wanted us to get out so they wouldn't have any more plagues. And so you see, people are willing to forego on wealth in order to have freedom. And in this case, it's freedom from the plagues that the Jewish people were causing to happen to the Egyptians. So I think that really covers this story. But yes, Edith.
Ben.
No, it's Ben.
Ben. Yeah. Ben.
I wanted to say, at the time of Joseph, the Egyptians became so poor, they lost their land, they lost everything. As soon as Joseph died and the Jews became slaves, all of a sudden they're so rich that they have silver and gold. So maybe that's part of what Miranda said, that they actually was stuff they took from the Jews. So that sort of answers your wife's question. Interesting. So really, initially, it was all our stuff in the first place. Yeah, where did they get it from?
Another question, please.
That's very interesting. Very interesting thought. I'm gonna let me just jot that down because I want to think about that one.
May I bring something else up, Rabbi?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm with you. but I think you froze. We can't hear you.
Wouldn't
Miranda,
take the spoils of war.
I can't. Okay, start again. We didn't hear
Oh,
you. I didn't
okay.
hear you.
Well, with this whole thing with spoils of war,
Uh-huh.
I remember something about Abraham saying that you shouldn't take spoils
Ah,
of war. And yet here we're trying to bring the promise of Abraham. So anyway, it's interesting. It just came
well,
up in my mind. Was it right to do that at all because it was spoils or
uh-huh.
not?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Right.
Not
The
spoils of war.
problem, the question that you're asking, it really deserves to really look deeper into Abraham's whole what was his logic. He didn't want to take anything from Sodom and Gomorrah, and yet when it came to bringing his wife to Egypt, what happened there? He says, say that you're my sister, and this way they're going to give me gifts. And he took them. He became a wealthy man when he left. So why was Abraham happy to take Egyptian wealth, and yet he wasn't interested in taking a dime from the
kings.
Sodom and Gomorrah? But now I should also mention that everything that the patriarchs did were a sign for the future. And so in a certain sense, the reason why Abraham wanted his wife wanted to go to Egypt and to become wealthy there was because in the future, the Jewish people are going to get wealthy when they leave Egypt. So this was a prelude. This was the initial act that was going to have a impact later on when Abraham, that when the Jewish people leave, that we're also going to leave with great wealth. This is a Ramban, I believe, that Ma'aseh Yaveh Siman Labanim, whatever the patriarchs did, it was in order, it was to give some type of a plan, a future, a preparation for when the Jewish people leave. So there is some idea there that that Abraham did take the wealth from Egypt, and this way it was preparation when the Jewish people left, that we're supposed to take the wealth from there as well.
Thank you.
But it deserves thought. It is an interesting thing, and what was Abraham proving? Not to take anything from Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, Mel, yes.
Yeah, I wanted to point out Ben is 100% right. They probably did take all of that gold and everything from the Jews, because he's right. All of it belonged to the Jews at that particular point, and if it wasn't for Joseph, they would have zero. I think he's 100% right on that. Absolutely.
Right. It sounds very interesting. I wrote it down to look into, to think about. I don't have any source. That's the only thing, except the logic. But I would like to see if there's anything about that. It is a very interesting thought. I agree. Okay. Let's continue with the next Gemara. So we spoke here about the borrowing the wealth from Egypt, and now the Gemara continues, and it says, "Vayinatzlu es Mitzrayim," and they emptied Egypt. Amar Rabami. Rabami says, "Melamed." This teaches us, "She'asauha kimetzuda she'ein ba dagon." They made Egypt like a mitzuda. Mitzuda is a trap that doesn't have any wheat. How do you trap birds? Well, you put out a net and you put food under the net, put grain under the net. And so the birds think they're going to be able to get the food, and they fly to the net, and they're trying to get the food, which is under the net. In the meantime, you tie up the net, and you caught the birds. If you don't have any food there, the birds aren't going to come. So there's a net that has, the net that has no grain is basically worthless. Is empty. It's really worthless. There's nothing there, nothing to be had there. So that's the word vayinatzlu. There is a tradition that lamed and dalid can be interchanged. So the Gemara's darshaning, the Gemara is saying that the word vayinatzlu could also be vayinatzdu, that they trapped these, that they made it like a trap, that it was empty, an empty trap. So it's like both words together, empty and trapped, like an empty trap. That's how they emptied it, to the extent that there's nothing there. They emptied it out totally of their wealth. Yes, Ben.
Rabbi, Metzudah is also a castle.
That's true.
So
That's
an empty castle, they emptied the castle. Egypt was the castle. So
Rashi doesn't learn that way. Rashi says Metzudah here is about nilkad, about trapping. So I don't know if any commentaries translate it differently, Metzudah, because a castle. Yeah, I mean, I guess it could mean
empty
that, right?
castle.
A fortress. Generally, it would mean a fortress, right? Yeah. That is a term used in modern Hebrew for sure, and probably in biblical Hebrew, I think it uses the term Metzudah. Yeah, I think. I think it's used. I don't know. I don't know why Rashi chose this translation. And
because Joseph saved for him all the dagan. And kept it for the bad years. Here, the Jews, when they left, they took everything with them and left them empty.
But it doesn't mean that we left them empty from food. It's just it means that we left them with no wealth. That's really the point.
Yeah.
So the idea is that there was no reason for anyone to come to Egypt anymore. Like Egypt there was no business. There was no potential for future, merchant type of business because there was no wealth there. They couldn't buy anything, And so that's what it means, that it was like normally a business is like a trap. You need something, you want to buy, you have something to sell. So almost there was nothing there. It was like a trap that doesn't have any dug on. There's no reason to go there. They have nothing to sell, and I'm not wasting my time. So Egypt was emptied from all of their money. Now, the next rabbi says, Reish Lakish Amar. So Rabami said it was like a trap that doesn't have dug on. Now, Reish Lakish says, Reish Lakish Amar, As'ua, they made it to Metzulah. The word vayinatzlu is from the word Metzulah, the deep part of the ocean. The very deep, the depths of the ocean, there's no fish. The fish are more on the top part of the ocean. I don't know if we have any fishermen here, but supposedly the Rashi tells us that the Metzulah Yam, which is I believe it means the deepest part of the ocean, there's no fish. And Rashi says al Sfas Hayam. They come to the top of the sea, the Ika Mazain, because there's Mazain, there's food there on the top, the flies and the dead fish maybe float to the top. I don't know, and so therefore when it says Vayinatzlu es Mitzrayim, they made it like the Metzulah, like the deep of the ocean where there's basically no fish there. Shein Badagim. That's how much they emptied it. They emptied it like that term. So we're translating the word Vayinatzlu, and so there's two ways of translating it. Basically, they mean the same thing. They emptied it out. We're just finding two similar words of how it could mean emptied out. Now, there is a Ben Yehoyada, which is a great commentary gives like Hasidic insights. So he mentions here, he says the concept of making it like a trap that doesn't have any doggone, no grain, a trap without grain, that is, they emptied it out, begashmius. They emptied it out, there's no grain. It's a little hard to empty it fully. There's always going to be little pockets, a little grain here, a little grain there, but there was no grain. Begashmius, they did not have any grain left. That's how, to that extent, that's how much they emptied it out. Now, the other opinion, Reish Lakish says, they made it like a metzula she'ein ba dogim. They made it like a metzula, the deep of the ocean, that there's no fish. That refers to spiritual sparks. They emptied it out from fish, meaning there was no spiritual sparks left to elevate. And this is what in Hasidic writings it's mentioned, that the reason why there's a commandment not to go back to Egypt is because we emptied out all the sparks that we needed to. When we were there for the 210 years, we elevated everything that needed to be elevated, and we took it with us. And that's why it's not a place to return to, because we don't have we didn't leave any sparks there, so to speak, to elevate. So that's the reason why it mentions these two things. That number one, we emptied it from physical wealth, and number two, we emptied it from spiritual wealth, and we took it with us to finish refining the world. So it says v'gam erev rav ola itam. It says the erev rav went with them when we left Egypt. The erev rav left with us. Now, what does that mean, the erev rav? So literally, it means the erev rav left with us. It means that the erev rav, which was the group of insincere converts, they came from Egypt along with us. But spiritually, it means that there were initially 288 sparks of holiness. 202 of them were in Egypt, and we brought them with us. Erev Rav, the mixture of Rav, the 202 sparks of holiness that were mixed with the physical world, we brought them up to holiness with us from Egypt. And so all we had left were the 66 sparks left, because, 86 sparks left, because we already elevated those 202 sparks. They're called the mixture of Rav, of 202. Ultimately, when basically it's based on a Kabbalistic statement that what are we doing in this world? We're elevating all the sparks. Where did the sparks come from? Well, there used to be a world called Tohu. The world of Tohu, it was destroyed. It couldn't handle itself, because each one of the spheroids, each one of the energies, dimensions, characteristics were so powerful that they didn't give room for any of the other entities to exist. So it was called the world of Tohu that broke. And that broke, all the sparks of holiness fell and got mixed into the physical world that we're in now. And what we're doing is elevating them back to refining them, separating them from the dirt that they're all mixed into. And that's what we did in Egypt. For 210 years, we were able to elevate 202 of those sparks, of the 288 sparks that were from the world of Tohu. So that's basically the meaning of this Gemara in a spiritual sense, is that it was both. We emptied it out from physical wealth, and we also emptied it out from any of the sparks of holiness, and that's the Metzula Shein Badagim. There's absolutely no fish in the Metzula, in the depths of the ocean. Okay, and then comes the next Gemara, Ekya Asher Ekya, and this is considered, I'm not sure to what extent, if you're really not allowed to say it, but I think people often just use the term Ekya because it's sort of one of the names of Hashem. And I should look it up. It's Gemara in Shavuos on page 35 talks about the the names of Hashem that you're allowed to erase and not. It could be it mentions it there. So I'm just going to call it Ekia. Ekia is referring to Hashem, which literally means I will be. And Ekia Asher Ekia means I will be what I will be. Moshe had asked Hashem, what is your name? I'm going to tell the Jewish people that you said that you're going to be saving us. You're taking us out of Egypt. So Moshe said to Hashem, so what name should I tell them? Who is God? What is your name that I should tell them? So Hashem said, Ekia Asher Ekia. I will be what I will be. And what Moshe understood that to mean was, I will be with you in this exile, and I will be with you in other exiles. So the Gemara is going to discuss the fact that the verse that it says Ekia Asher Ekia, it actually, there's a second verse that's right afterwards. And the next verse says only one Ekia. This verse says two. And it says Vayomer in between the two verses, which means that he said one thing, Ekia Asher Ekia, and Hashem said another thing, Ekia, the one-time Ekia. So it sounds like Hashem maybe was talking to two people or about two things. Like, why does it interrupt the statement and said, he said this, and he said, like, why does it say, and he said that? It should have just been a continuation. And so it interrupts it. So the Gemara is going to answer and explain what was going on then. What was this discussion, the dialogue between Hashem and Moshe Rabbeinu regarding the name that he's going to tell the Jewish people? This is who I am, this is who God is, who's going to be saving you from Egypt. So the Gemara, let me read it inside. Ekia Asher Ekia, Amar Leah Kodesh Baruch Hu. Hashem said LaMoshe to Moshe, Leich Amar Lahem LeYisrael, go tell the Jews, Ani hayisi imchem b'shibud zeh. I was with you during this shibud. I'm not sure how to translate. Anyone have a good translation for shibud? This subjugation, maybe. I was with you during this subjugation.
Shibud is like being slaves.
Yeah, I know. I'm just. I think the word subjugation maybe is the best. Okay, I was with you during this subjugation. V'ani eya imachem b'shibud malchiyos, and I will be with you in the future ones. Future enslavements. So Amar Lefanov, so Moshe told Hashem, Rebbeinu Shalayla, Master of the universe, Dayo Letzora B'Shaito. It's enough for the tzara, for the painful situation during its own time. Let's not tell the Jews about the fact that you're going to be with them during future subjugations, during future enslavements. It's enough that you're telling them they're suffering in the middle of Egypt, and we're telling them that you're going to redeem them, but I don't want to tell them. Oh, and don't worry, Hashem will also help you out when you go bankrupt the next time. It's like let's not let's not rub it in the fact that you're suffering now, and you're gonna, oh well, it's okay. He's gonna also save you the next time. You've been a slave 210 years. He's saving you now, and the next time you become a slave, he'll also take you out. He's taking you out of jail now, and don't worry. Next time you'll be in jail, he'll also at some point take you out. It's not. Why should we bring that up? Let's not bring it up. So that's what Moshe told Hashem. So Amar Leah Kodesh Baruch Hu. So Hashem said, Leich Amar Lahem, go tell the Jews, Ekia, only one Ekia. I am with you. I will be with Shlachani Aleichem. Ekia, the one who will be with you, he's the one who sent me to you to tell you that he's going to save you. So that's the meaning of Ekia, of that dialogue. Now, that leaves us with the big question. The question is, I think Hashem is much, I don't think we can say that Moshe needed to tell Hashem to be sensitive. Obviously, Hashem knew and placed whatever wisdom Moshe had. Hashem placed it in his brain. Hashem was much more. Hashem is beyond wisdom and doesn't need Moshe to tell him that we shouldn't tell the Jews of Ekia Asher Ekia that I will be with you in this one, and don't worry, I'll be with you in future exiles. So what really is the meaning of this? So the way you learn it, I believe it maybe is hinted to in Rashi, in the Chumash, that what it means is that Hashem never meant that Moshe should tell this to the Jewish people. Hashem meant to tell this only to Moshe. For the Jewish people, obviously, you'll just tell them Ekya once. For you, I'm telling you Ekya Asher Ekya. For you, I'm telling you Ekya Asher Ekya. That's the way it's understood. Now, Moshe thought Hashem was saying, tell the Jewish people this, and Hashem said, no. That's for you. For the Jewish people, just tell them one Ekya, one of that I'm with you. I was with you all along, and that's what it says, that Hashem is with us in Golus, and as it says, V'shav Hashem aleikecha shvuscha, Hashem will redeem the captives and your captives. And it doesn't say v'heshiv, it doesn't say Hashem will bring you back, but it sounds like Hashem is also returning. V'shav Hashem aleikecha, Hashem returns. Hashem, your God, is returning also, meaning Hashem is with us in exile. And that's really a tremendous inspiration for us, that Hashem is really with us. It's not like he left us to be subject to the situation that we're in. Hashem is holding our hand, so to speak, throughout exile. And that's the meaning of this Gemara, Ekya Asher Ekya. Okay, any questions?
No.
Okay, good. Let's go. Let's do the next piece. The next Gemara says, Aneni Hashem, Aneni. Answer me, Hashem. Answer me. And this is a pasuk that is talking about Eliyahu on Har HaKarmel. And the story is that many of the Jewish people, there were many false prophets then, and they were encouraging, they were worshiping the Baal, and many of the Jewish people were sort of like wavering between the two options. Oh, we'll dance at this wedding, we'll dance at that wedding, we'll hang out with the idol worshipers, and we'll hang out with those that are very religious. And Eliyahu was rebuking them. Ad masai atem peischem al shnei asifim. Until when are you wavering between these two thresholds? You're not stable. What are you? You believe in Hashem or you believe in Baal? And so Eliyahu made this great ceremony where he's going to prove to everyone that there's an Eibishter. And he told the people of Baal, he said, come, let's have a debate in public. Let's have a public debate. And so sure enough, they debated with regard to bringing a sacrifice, an ox. They cut it up, put it on the Nevi'ei Habal. They were given the first licks. They tried first. They put it on the altar, and they called their idol to come and swallow it up. And sure enough, zero, nothing happened. And then Eliyahu came and he davened to Hashem, and of course Hashem consumed the sacrifice, and Eliyahu said two terms. He said, "Aneni Hashem, Aneni." We of course say in the Slichas we mention Aneni, and so it's connected to Eliyahu Hanavi saying so Aneni Hashem Aneni. It's connected to the previous Gemara, because the previous Gemara talked about the Ekya Asher Ekya, the two times that it says Ekya, and what did it refer to? So here we're talking about the word Aneni that Eliyahu said. So it's the Gemara is going to explain why he had to say it twice. Amar Rebavohu says, Lamar Amar Eliyahu Aneni Beis Pamim. Why did Eliyahu say Aneni twice? So the Gemara answers, Melamed, this teaches us, Sha'amar Eliyahu Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Eliyahu said before Hashem, Rabbeinu Shalaylam, Master of the universe. Aneni, answer me, Shetered Eish Min HaShamayim, that a fire should come down from heaven, and it should eat everything that's on the altar. Now, Eliyahu did something very, in a certain sense, very gutsy, very challenging, because he wasn't really allowed to do this according to halacha. According to halacha, you weren't allowed to, he's built an altar, and this was, not the place where Hashem had chosen. This is not the Beis Hamikdash, and it wasn't appropriate to build a altar over here. And Eliyahu begged Hashem to bring a fire from heaven, and it should consume everything that's on the altar that he brings. Va'aneni, and answer me a second thing. Shetosiach daitom, that the wicked people and the false prophets and they shouldn't be come up with a thought. Their mind should be confused, so to speak, that they shouldn't say Kadesh Yoimru, they shouldn't say Maisei Keshafimhu, that what I'm doing, that I'm doing an act of black magic. In other words, they shouldn't disprove the great miracle that I'm accomplishing here, and they'll come up with some foolish excuse that, it's black magic, it's worthless, it's no proof of Hashem. You can always, it's so easy to, you could build something, it takes so long to build, and to destroy it, 1 second, it could be destroyed. A little, one bomb, one fire destroys the whole thing. It could take something to take years to build. Same thing in a great miracle could happen. Hashem could bring a great miracle, and one little laughter they could make some joke against it, and it would knock off the whole proof, the great proof that we have. You could come up with some claim. So Eliyahu was very nervous. They're going to come and say, just Maisek Shafim. Meantime, he made this huge miracle, and the end of the wicked people are just going to say, nothing. So in the meantime, they could do nothing. They weren't able to do anything. They have all their idols claiming, that they're worshiping their idols for years. They're doing zero, and then when you do it, all of a sudden it's Maisek Shafim. It's the work of black magic. So he asked Hashem, answer me that they shouldn't say it, that it's a Maisek Shafim name. Shenemar, as it says, Ba'ato hasiboisa es libam achiranis. You turn their heart backwards, and you did that, meaning you didn't let them come up with this foolish way of thinking that maybe it's black magic. So that's the end of this Gemara. Now, what we've accomplished now is we finished the entire Talmud on the first Mishnah, and we're now ready to learn the second Mishnah. So it was one Mishnah that we started with, and it brought about all these 9 pages or 8 pages of Talmudic discussion. And now comes the next Mishnah, and the next Mishnah talks about not the evening Shema, but the morning Shema. And so the next Mishnah starts, Me'emasai, from when? Kairin Shema b'shachris. From when do we read the Shema? In the morning. Now, the Gemara says, Misha Yakir bein tchelas lelavan. From when you recognize between tchelas, blue wool, or green, somewhere in between maybe. We don't really know what tchelas is because it's been lost. Very hard to find tchelas. It was lost for many generations. And in fact, there have been different theories of where maybe they tried to find it, they thought they found it, but it's definitely hasn't been proven to be tchelas, and therefore we nowadays, we don't have tchelas, but there is a color of tchelas that maybe they used to know very clearly. And when a person can recognize, when it gets light enough that a person can recognize the difference between tchelas and lavan, that's when you can start saying the Shema. Now, we know that the time to say Shema is based on the pasuk, uvekumecha, when you get up. So why is our Gemara saying when you can recognize between Tchelis and Lavan, it should be when you get up in the morning, when people get up? So the answer is that it goes hand in hand. When do people get up? What is the normal time? What is the norm? Or what is meant in the Torah when people should be getting up, or would make sense that people would be getting up? And that is when they start that time when people can recognize between green and white. According to this opinion, that's when people would make sense that people would want to get up, because if you get up before that, you don't really see what you're putting on, clothing, and this would be the norm to get up. It's like it's beginning, the day is beginning. And Rabbi Eliezer argues, and he says, "Bein tchelas the karti," between tchelas and karti. Now, this opinion is a little later because it has to be lighter to tell the difference between tchela. Karti means, I think, leaks. So to tell the difference between a green or a bluish green and a leak, you need to be able to see it better than to tell the difference between white and tchelas, in this bluish green. Now, so we have two opinions when you can start saying Shema. Now, I had a question bothering me for a long time, and that is that the Mishnah that we learned in the beginning, first Mishnah, the rabbis were arguing about what the meaning of uve shachbecha is. When you either means when you go to sleep or when you are sleeping. If it meant when you go to sleep, so that was Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. You had to say Shema at the night until the time when people stop going to sleep. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, it was like until the four hours into the night. So you had to from the stars come out until like about 4 hours later. That's it. That was his opinion, because that's when people go to sleep. When people are sleeping, maybe have all night or until midnight or all night. People are sleeping. So that was the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel. The midnight deadline was rabbinic. So the meaning of b'shachbecha was according to Rabbi Gamliel and the rabbis, really, the meaning was when people are sleeping. Now let's take the next word of the verse, uvekumecha. What does it mean? When people are getting up or when people are up? So if it means when people are getting up, it's within a few hours in the morning, people are getting up. If it means when people are up, that would sound like you have all day. But our Mishnah that we're about to learn now, the Goimra, you finish it, ad hanetzachama. One opinion is you only have until dawn, ad hanetzachama, until sunrise. Rabbi Yeshua Imer, Rabbi Yeshua says that when do you have until to say it? Ad shalishos. You have until 3 hours. Shekein derech malachim lamoi b'shalishos, because that's when kings get up, is 3 hours. So the question I have is, why are we looking when people get up? Why can't we learn when people are up? And then you could have all day to say Shema. Sounds like a good question, huh? So this question is asked in the Taisus Harash. It explains very simply that if you just translate the words, uve shachbecha, it means either lying down or being in a state of lying down. But uve kumecha does not sound you are up, you are awake. It sounds like getting up. The word kum means getting up. Shachav doesn't necessarily mean going to lie down. It could mean in a state of lying down. But kum has to mean doing an act of getting up. You don't, you wouldn't use that term when you're up. So uva kumecha definitely means getting up. Uva shachbecha could mean lying down, or could mean being in a state of lying. So therefore, because shochev is lying, and shacha, and it could mean in a state of lying, or it could mean going to lie down. So there's definitely two options by shochev. But kum, when kumecha, getting up, it definitely means getting up. So therefore, you can't compare the two words and say, well, you have all day because people are up all day. It's only the state when people are getting up. So that's the meaning. That's why there's an argument here between these rabbis when that time is, until when is it the time that people are getting up. Okay, we are going to conclude here.